Welcome back, everyone. Let's go ahead and do a little comparison between the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS in 2021 and see which one is the better iPhone for you. Is it the more expensive one? Is it the cheaper one? Let's find out. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, as always, you can see that the iPhone XS is a little bit of a smaller iPhone. They've gotten bigger since then with the iPhone 12s and 12 Pros and stuff. But the iPhone XS, still looks pretty good. The iPhone XR is the bigger phone overall. The XS has that 5.8-inch OLED display, and for sure, it still looks great. I have no problems with it. It is a little bit smaller, like I said, than the newer models, but it still looks great. It feels really good in the hand. No problems. The notch up top, I still think it looks very, very good. It still looks like a very premium device. The iPhone X, on the other hand, has that bigger 6.1-inch IPS panel and True Tone on both, so it looks great. This one is an IPS panel though, so keep that in mind. If you like IPS, go for it. Most people will probably end up like OLED, so OLED, the XS may be better for you. Same notch, same Face ID, a little bit more bezel around the XR, but in reality, there's not really that big of a difference if I'm being completely honest. They both look really, really good. In terms of the side profile, the iPhone XR seems to be a little bit thicker, but they're both still very, very close in the hand. And on the back, glass backs on both, pretty much the same glass. I do have a skin on the back of my XS, a dual camera setup on the XS, single camera setup on the iPhone XR, lightning ports at the bottom, and that essentially pretty much covers up both of them. IP certification on both. They both feel really good in the hand. One doesn't feel like more premium than the other one, and I think that's a major thing to keep in mind. Nowadays, we do have the frosted glass backs and stuff on the newer ones and the more expensive ones, but between these two, they both are very slimmer in the hand for sure. Now that pretty much covers it up in terms of the outside. There's really no difference in the software either. They're both going to be getting the same, amount of software updates. So if you're trying to figure out which one you like in that standpoint, you're really not going to find out that big of a difference between these two. So keep that in mind. As I mentioned before, if you're trying to find the iPhone that's going to get you the longer lasting whatever in terms of software, they're not both going to be the same because they have both the same chipsets inside of them too. That's a massive thing to keep in mind, and that's a good thing. Throughout the time, these two are always going to be interlinked because of that. There is one big advantage for a phone like an iPhone XR though, and that's the battery life. The iPhone XR has a bigger battery size than the iPhone XS, but not only bigger battery, you are getting a much better battery life from the iPhone XR than the iPhone XS. I feel like the iPhone XS is one of those devices that's kind of going to be plagued by the battery. It had a smaller battery than its predecessor, which was very weird. I never understood that. And this is the main reason why I would recommend people to buy an iPhone XR over an iPhone XS. I think the XS is probably the better built when you consider the screen and how good the screen is compared to the XR. But the battery life is one of those things I didn't really love about the XS. It was good, and I think to be honest, was about the same as the 10, but I wanted it to be better than the 10. I didn't want to be about the same. The 10R definitely, in my opinion, has a better battery life here. It has a bigger battery size as well. So again, if you're trying to find the phone that is going to get the longer lasting software updates, both of them are going to be exactly the same forever, but the iPhone XR is going to be getting the better battery life at the end of the day. So keep that in mind. That's pretty much how to kind of sum up the specific battery and software comparison. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these devices. Like I mentioned before, both these phones have the same chipset inside of them, the Apple A12 Bionic, but there is a little bit of a difference with the RAM. The XS has 4 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone XR has 3 gigabytes of RAM. So a little bit of a difference right there. Let's go and see which one is the faster iPhone between both of these. Okay, now that we're back, let me clear all the apps in the background, and as you can see, they're all cleared out, so let's get started. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. And I'm not really too sure, they're both about the same. App stores, 3, 2, 1. And you can see a pop-up on the XS. I don't know why, but I don't know. I think the XR was going to be faster anyway, to be honest. Scrolling speeds, you guys can kind of tell that. I think the XR looks a little bit smoother. I don't feel like I'm just saying that, to be honest. Let's do cameras, 3, 2, 1. And about the same too. As you can see, the animation speeds hopping out are almost identically the same as well. Music, 3, 2, 1. And I think the XR actually was the faster one there as well. Hopping out of this one, as always, I have a bunch of these third-party apps we can go and get into. Let's get started. Let's do Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. And the XR actually was the faster one. They're both on iOS 14 as well. Dropbox, 3, 2, 1. And they both are kind of the same. There wasn't really that big of a difference. Let's go ahead into Snapchat, 3, 2, 1. XR is like instantaneous. As you can see, I thought the apps were in the background, but that's not the case. Temple Run, 3, 2, 1. And I'll just wait until it gets out of this loading panel. Loaded here. The XS was a little bit behind. Let's do Bofa, which I don't have. So Netflix 3, 2, 1. 10s actually was the faster one there. Let's go and do Facebook 3, 2, 1. And almost identical on both. Twitter 3, 2, 1. And I think the 10R was the faster one there as well. Hopping out of this one, let's go and do Fruit Ninja 3, 2, 1. And maybe it will be the 10R here. Yeah, the 10R was loaded, but it was just like a split second faster to get into the next panel on the iPhone XS. So that one was pretty close in my opinion as well. Let's go ahead and do stack 3, 2, 1. And you can see I think the iPhone XS was the faster one there. Let's go and do thank you 3, 2, 1. And the 10R was the faster one. The 10s was a little bit behind. As you can see, gameplay wise, as always, I think these are going to be pretty identical. There's not going to be that big of a difference between these two. Let's go and do snake versus blocks 3, 2, 1. And I think the iPhone XS was the faster one there. Hopping out of this one, let's go and end it off with Temple Run 2 3, 2, 1. And you can see the iPhone XR seems to be the faster one. The XS just a little bit behind, to be honest. And to kind of, sum up the speed comparison, I think for sure the iPhone XR seems to be the faster one. And I don't know if it's because of the software. They're both running exactly the same software on iOS 14. I don't know if there's that big of a difference between these two. As I think the XR is the faster one, but as you can see, the XS may be the better one in RAM management. As you can see, the XS does have an extra gig of RAM, so that's a pretty massive, major thing to keep in mind. In terms of this stuff, you can see that the iPhone XR is still kind of keeping up, but the RAM management isn't as good on the iPhone XR as it is on the iPhone XS. So a big thing to keep in mind. And even though I clicked on different apps there, that's kind of how it's sum up that specific speed comparison in 2021. Let's go and hit on the cameras. As I mentioned before, iPhone XS has two 12-megapixel sensors, a wide and a telephoto lens. The iPhone XR has a single wide-angle lens. And with the iPhone XS, I think you're still getting a very solid sensor. You can do 4K at 60 on the back and 1080p at 60 on the front. Same exact thing with the iPhone XR. And I feel like at the end of the day, the XS's camera is good. I've done a billion camera comparisons between this and other iPhones and phones in general between the last couple of years. And I think this is a very solid camera still. It's definitely not perfect. It has a couple of issues here and there, but I think as a whole, for a camera setup, it's not that bad. And I think most people will agree, like, it's a very good camera. I think the only downside of it is that there is no ultra-wide sensor on it. I like having an ultra-wide and there's no 4K at 60 on the front. But between the iPhone XS and the XR, this is definitely the better camera. It has to be because it is the better camera. It's the same camera module with the same chipset, just with an additional telephoto lens. And this is a solid camera. I think most people will agree. And if you've ever seen my videos, you probably already know how this camera is. And I think with the iPhone XR, this camera is very solid as well. Again, I think it's pretty much almost the same thing as the XS, just with the lack of that telephoto lens. But the wide angle lens this thing has is still really good. It has portrait mode as well, which is still very awesome. And I think for whatever you're going to do with it, for all intents and purposes, it's going to be a solid camera. And I think that's a massive thing to keep in mind. So with the iPhone XS and with the iPhone XR, I think these cameras are still great. I would probably say that the iPhone XS's camera is better, but the iPhone XR's camera is probably really, really good. It's like 99% of what the XS camera is, just with the lack of the telephoto lens. So that pretty much covers it up there. And to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you go and buy an iPhone XS? Should you buy an iPhone XR in 2021? Well, this is a little tricky, because I actually found that there's several, they kind of fit in their own spots. If you want to get the best value per dollar, I think the iPhone XR is the better way to go. This phone is just a good value. It's $499 brand new, but you can get it for much cheaper than it. But you can get it for much cheaper than that as well, which is a massive thing to keep in mind. With a phone like an iPhone XR, you're getting arguably faster performance on this phone than a XS, and you're getting better battery life from an iPhone XR as well. And like I mentioned before, I think that's a very, very massive thing to keep in mind. I think if you're trying to get a phone that'll last you for as long as possible, the XR is probably the better way to go because of the battery, the software longevity, all that stuff. But the XS is still almost exactly the same thing as the XR. It's just better in a couple of cases. And I think that may be like somewhat of the only thing to keep in mind, you know what I mean? if you kind of know what I mean, with the iPhone XS, you're getting a very solid phone. You're getting a very beautiful display, better display on the XS than on this device. On top of that, you're getting things like the additional telephoto lens, an extra gigabyte of RAM. So you're getting better RAM management on the XS, but you're getting faster performance on the iPhone XR. So that was something that I saw. So I think if you're somebody who wants to get like the best value per dollar, the XR is a better way to go. Better battery life and better speed. If you're somebody who wants a better camera and potentially better RAM management, and also like a better looking display, then the XS is the better way to go. But I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these. If the iPhone XS was a 10 out of 10, the iPhone XR is also like a 10 out of 10 in its own right. This one's faster, this one's better RAM, this one has a better display, this one has better battery. Kind of, it's kind of strange, take it as you will. But if you want to pick up either one of these, again, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. But that's really pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count. So it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.